Hi guys, and welcome to this Houdini tutorial. Today we're looking at creating AOV passes, or auxiliary output variable passes, to help with our compositing of our rendered image itself. This is kind of a follow-on from the previous tutorials on camera matching in Houdini. So we already have our scene set up, we've got our objects placed in 3D space, and we also have our HDR lighting involved as well. And what I'm going to do actually is get a multitude of different materials into here itself. So I'm just going to go back to our object level. We've got our dragon, and what we could maybe do is drop in firstly a polygon sphere, and I'm just going to place it in 3D kind of next to our dragon. I might scale this down a tad. Oops. And just push it further back in Z. And we could maybe actually duplicate our dragon. There we go. And I'm just going to place this second one off to the side. I can rotate it. And what I'm going to do is add a few different material types into our render itself. I'm just going to position these a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so our current dragon has a basic principled shader. So let's find some more, a wider range of different materials when it comes to the principled shader itself. So let's maybe add in one that could possibly be gold. Let's add in some plastic that's up near the top, and let's add in more of a chrome for our object as well. I guess we could do that through the principled shader. Anyway, so let's add some gold to this dragon, plastic to this dragon, and our principled shader to the sphere itself. Remember that this grid plane does have a material, or is going to render out invisible, so it's not too important what that particularly looks like itself. If we were doing this correctly, you could always UV unwrap this and texture it based on the background image, so that any color reflecting off of the ground would kind of then impact upon our characters itself. Right. And what I want to show you is under our output beauty for the mantra, what we want to then be able to do is under images, we go to extra image planes. This is where we break out our original beauty render into the different passes. Now some of these you'll get for everything. So for instance, we've got shading position, the Z depth, and the shading normal. But more importantly, for rebuilding a beauty pass, we either want combined lighting or direct and indirect lighting per component is what you kind of want. So I'm going to grab direct and indirect, and what it's going to do is this per component is here, this export components. So it's going to give us a direct lighting diffuse, direct lighting reflect, direct lighting coat, refract, volume, and SSS, as well as indirect passes for each of these contributions. Now these completely are related to the materials that you're using for your objects. So let's have a quick look at them themselves. If we go to the gold material, you'll see that we do have a base color, but its metallic is set up completely to 1, and metallic materials have absolutely no diffuse contribution. They are only specular. So when we are rendering out our AOV pass for the diffuse, we won't actually get any information at all from this dragon back at all. It also does not have any coat reflectivity, so therefore in the code pass, we would get nothing. We don't have any subsurface scattering, and we certainly don't have any volume. So importantly, if you're not going to be exporting certain parts of the shader into your AOV, these are just going to be empty passes that you potentially don't need at all. So for instance, I know we're not going to have any subsurface scattering, and we're definitely not going to have any volume. So, and refraction, because we haven't added any glass either. So we can strip out these previous three, and we probably don't even need the coat, but I'm just going to leave it in there just in case I'm missing anything. So now that we've turned on these specific passes, the principal shader has all of this set up for you. You do not have to then go in and make custom exports, which is something that we can show you in a second. But let's just render this out and show you what it looks like. So we've hit render to mplay. Mplay will start up and render the scene. Shouldn't take too long. Here we go. So we have our gold dragon. Remember, this is a bucket method, so it's interactive. You can click anywhere where you want the center of the bucket pattern to actually filter out from. We've got our principal shader, we've got our gold dragon, and we've also got our plastic dragon over here as well. Unfortunately, we didn't change the color of the plastic, so it's fairly similar in color. But not to worry, you can see that the shading of the two objects are very, very different. So this is your beauty pass. The C pass here is beauty. However, we do now have all of these auxiliary passes. So we've got PZ, which is the point position and depth, and this has been remapped for us. We can tell because these two different values have now gone yellow. That's just so that you can see on a 0 to 1 scale the depth of the scene. Starting at black and going towards white, the further into the frame you actually go. We've got our indirect diffuse, which is black at the minute, but I'll tell you why. It's mainly because our render has not got any bounce passes for that. We've got our indirect reflection, and all of these materials are reflective in some way, but to varying levels. And you can also see that the gold material has a gold tinted reflection, so it's picking up that. We've got our indirect coat, which I was right, and it was empty, so we didn't necessarily need the coat pass. Here is our diffuse, and again, only the principal shader and only the plastic is actually has a diffuse component. The metallic gold dragon has no diffuse at all, and that is why it renders out as black. We've got a direct reflection, and again you can see how much more reflectivity is actually coming back off the gold material, and again we won't have anything in coat. We've got surface position, and we've also got our point normals, which can be useful in compositing for doing any relighting purposes. Anyway, so this shows you how to kind of break down all the different passes in Houdini, and that's if you're using the principal shader itself. I will kind of go through and show you different ways of actually creating your own custom passes, but that'll be for the next tutorial. So I hope this was useful. This shows you all of the things that we actually need to rebuild our beauty pass in the composite itself. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll keep on going. Right, thanks guys.